click the click the go live button before adding myself to the screen. So you might have had a little blank screen there, but hey, here we are. It's Wednesday night. It's the live Panther-Lair Show. It's youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com hanging out with you tonight. We'll bring Jim Hammett in here in a moment, and Jim can join us because, boy, do we have some things to talk about here tonight, as you might expect with the transfer portal humming along at full speed. I made a good joke today. I said, what's on your cranium? You're having portal mania. Shout out to on a day when a lot of things about Pittsburgh from 20 years ago are getting reminisced about with the closure of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which is actually not a laughing matter. But before that was even announced, I found myself thinking about Cope's Cabana. You remember on the Steelers post-game shows, Cope's Cabana down at Heinz Field, and it would be broadcast live, and he would just have like drunk people on to talk about it, and Cope would read all the scores from around the leagues, but he wouldn't actually say the scores of games. Myron Cope would. He would just say, like, Denver beat the Raiders by 6. And, wow, that's a funny way to present this. But anyway, he would always sing his Cope's Cabana song. And what's on your cranium? You're having Steeler mania. Well, what's on your cranium? You're having portal mania. And that's what we're having this week because it is crazy with the transfer portal right now. Players in, players out, players not necessarily returning from not necessarily returning from the transfer portal to Pitt, but some players announcing that as of today, they don't intend to go into the transfer portal from Pitt. Of course, the portal stays open until next Friday, so you've got a little more than a week until the portal closes. And remember, folks, and we can't stress this enough because there will inevitably be people who do stress out about this. Remember, folks, the transfer portal window is January 2nd to January 16th, as you're seeing it right now. That's just when the window is open for players to enter. Players can leave the transfer portal at any time. You're only limited really by the enrollment dates and enrollment deadlines and ad drop and whatnot at your schools. And actually, somebody asked about that. I have to look it up at Pitt and see what I mean, like we can see what what the latest dates are for civilians like you and I to enroll in classes. I'm sure they can always make exceptions for athletes, but at a certain point, you got to be in class, you got to be going, or you have to be enrolled in school, and you have to be, participating as a University of Pittsburgh student athlete, and actually in order to actually be part of the team. So there is a deadline on that end of it, but this January 16th deadline, if Pitt hasn't landed a player that you want at a position you feel is a position of need by next Friday, it doesn't mean all hope is lost. They still might add guys beyond that. All next Friday really means is it's the last day for players to go into the transfer portal. So by then you should have a pretty clear idea of who's leaving Pitt, who's staying at Pitt, who's going to be here next season, and who's not going to pull any surprises. Although there is another little caveat that you can throw out there. The portal process, at least as I've come to understand it, or as it's been explained to me, is if a player wants to go into the transfer portal, they submit their paperwork to compliance, right? And then compliance submits the paperwork to the NCAA to include them in the transfer portal. I think you have like 48 hours, 2 business days to compliance has 2 business days to submit that paperwork. So in theory, player could go to compliance on Friday the 16th, turn in the paperwork to transfer, and compliance wouldn't necessarily compliance could wait until the following Monday to submit it. So maybe there could be a possibility, but like, look, agents are going to get that stuff out. It's going to leak. I only know that whole 48-hour thing because if you recall, the Jordan Addison transfer news broke on like a Friday night. And I recall that because that weekend, I was taking my family to New York City for a trip, and we were about to fly to Newark, and our flight got delayed. And so I'm sitting in the Pittsburgh International Airport, and because of the delay, I'm sitting there and having the extreme pleasure, to my wife's great displeasure, of sitting there texting people trying to find out what the heck was going on with Jordan Addison. Whereas if my flight to Newark had not been delayed, I would be in the air, and I wouldn't even know that Jordan Addison was transferring until I landed at lovely EWR. But anywho, Jordan Addison, that was the day the news kind of came out. He submitted his paperwork, but they waited like the 48 hours to actually put him into the transfer portal. So you do have that to keep an eye on. But I think by next Friday, and probably even sooner than that, we'll have a pretty clear idea of who's going to go into the portal from Pitt and who's not. And so you've got that to look forward to. But in the meantime, guys are committing. Multiple guys. 2 guys today. Another guy Monday, I think it was. So a bunch of new portal commitments. A bunch of guys went into the portal. We've got a lot to talk. A lot has happened since New Year's Eve, or the day before New Year's Eve, which was the last time we hung out here on the live Panther-Lair show. So let's bring Jim in because he is here as well, hanging out with Jim for the first time since December 30th. Happy New Year, Jim. Did you have a nice New Year?
You know what? And I think you kind of dealt with the same thing. I've been sick for like 4 days. I probably sound that way too. So
yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Are you going to be able to make it through here? Or
we're going to power
through the adversity?
Yeah, we're going to power through the adversity. But good New Year. Today wasn't a good day. And I don't think it was a good day for Pittsburgh.
That's a good call. Yeah, it's a major bummer. With the Post-Gazette. Somebody even commented on that. Steel Will said sad news about the Post-Gazette. Man, I said this on Twitter, like, I moved out to Pittsburgh in 1997, probably started reading the paper a lot in the early 2000s. And there was a point where, like, you had, just on the sports side, you had Ed Bouchette on the Steelers. You had Zeiss on Pitt football. You had Ray Fittipaldo on Pitt basketball, and he was awesome at that. Deion was on the Pirates. Dave Molinari was on the Penguins. Mike White was on high school. And then you had Ron Cook and Gene Collier as the main, like, sports columnists. Like, that's a Hall of Fame lineup right there. Like, those guys. And then you had, like, other people, like, chipping in. Like, Shelly Anderson was working, I think, on the Penguins at that point, too. And there were a couple other, like, Jerry Dulac working on the scene. I mean, like, just a dynamite lineup, like, doing great work covering Pittsburgh sports. And it is just it like that set a standard, because that was the lineup. And I actually just said this on Twitter. That was the lineup when I first started doing what I'm doing now. And that was like my first job in journalism was this site, was Panther-Lair.com. And so I come into it, and, like, these are the people who are doing the job at that time: Bouchette, Zeiss, Fittipaldo, Molinari, Kovacevic, Mike White. And, like, I learned how to do this job from those people, from that stable of Post-Gazette writers. And to think that, and I mean, I think they've had great writers, like, throughout the years, and they've kept putting good people in those jobs. But, like, to think that it's just not going to exist, that we're going to have this city without the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, like, I can't really get my head around it. I can't.
That's how I've been all day. It's like, it just doesn't really make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me, like, when we go to the first football game next fall, like, it's like Post-Gazette, Tribune Review, Panther-Lair. It's always been that way. And it's like, okay, like, they're not, like, it doesn't add up to me. So I think it's a really bad day for Pittsburgh, not just, like, sports coverage, but just in general. Like, having a newspaper, local journalism is an important thing. And just to not have that in this city, and, like, I know the Tribune Review, they cover the Pittsburgh sports teams, but it's kind of more of like a newspaper geared towards Westmoreland County. Like, Allegheny County is like the second biggest county in Pennsylvania. It doesn't have a major newspaper. So it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing for the city. It's a bad thing for sports fans. And it's a bad thing for a lot of our friends. A lot of our friends lost their jobs today. And, like, that really sucks. And I feel for Steven and Abby, like the people that share the beat with us on Pitt, but, like, everyone, like Batco, Chris Carter. I mean, think about, like, all the people that we know over there. And it's kind of gutting, and it was sudden. I mean, I could tell by their reactions. They didn't know this was coming either. So it's an unfortunate thing. And, it felt right. We had to kind of start with that.
Yeah. And I was excited about Noah Hiles and, like, what he had been doing in this new role. Like, I was excited to see where he was going to go with it, because I loved the stuff that he had been doing, the series on the Navy kids from Mount Lebanon. Like, he's done. I was like, this is going to be really fun to watch. And it's just, I mean, you think about the resources they dedicated, right? Like, nobody travels with Pitt basketball anymore except the Post-Gazette. You would sometimes go to some of the road football games, but not all of them. The Post-Gazette was at every one. They had, on the Steelers, they had Jerry Dulac, they had Ray Fittipaldo, they had Brian Batco, and they added Chris Carter to the coverage. Like, they were still dedicating a lot of resources, and now that coverage is just gone. And I mean, like, those guys will find new work. They're good, even if they're doing it on their own. Like, they'll find jobs, but, like, it's just gone. And that is a I'm so caught up thinking about transfers and things like that. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, if I was drinking tonight, we would do a shot for it, but actually haven't drank since the last live Panther-Lair show because, like you said, I got sick throughout the week, and so that kind of sucked and made for a not fun New Year's Eve. But yeah, definitely a bummer today to see that news, and I don't know, like it creates a void that I don't really think it doesn't get replaced. You know what I mean? Like that. It's not like the Trib is going to hire all of those people. It's not like the Trib is going to commit that level of coverage. It just won't be there.
It's evaporated. Yeah,
it won't be there. It's a bummer. I was, I mean, those guys can always join the show whenever they want. I should just every week send out like the StreamYard link and be like, hey, anybody who wants to come hang out, you're more than welcome. And if you want to just complain about your old bosses, we're cool with that for sure. Anywho, transfer portal is happening, Jim.
right.
As we segue back into our regularly scheduled programming, the transfer portal is happening. Lots of players going into the portal. I meant to count before I sat down. Do you know off the top of your head the number of players Pitt has lost to the portal so far?
Like counting walk-ons?
Yeah, everybody that we've known about.
I want to say it's like 24?
16, 17, 18,
No,
19, 20,
not quite
21, 22. I have 22 that I'm
Okay.
counting, but I might be missing one or two. I didn't count Sean Lee. I do have him on the list of transfer in our transfer tracker just because he was going and then came back. Were you going to say something? Oh.
No, I'm counting because
you're counting.
No, I'm at 21. So I must have missed someone random at some point.
But we're not anyway, there's more than 20 guys. More than 20 guys. It doesn't matter what the exact number is. There's more than 20 guys from Pitt who are in the transfer portal. The latest addition today being Trey Butkowski, Francis Brew going in yesterday. Kenny Johnson is in, and he's going to go to Texas Tech. Rasheem Biles is in. All of these guys have entered. Almost all of these guys have entered since our last live show, I think, right? Juelz Goff was in before. Maybe like Nico Crawford. There were a couple of guys who went in before the bowl game, but biggest losses. Let's start there. And I think it's probably pretty easy. I mean, I think it's just a handful of guys you would say that stings. That's going to be hard to replace. Who do you put at the top of that list, Jim?
I mean, I look at it like you lost two starters on offense in Lyndon Cooper and Kenny Johnson. Defense, you lost Francis Brew and Rasheem Biles, and you lost your kicker. Like those are the five most important people you lost. Everyone else is probably either didn't start this year or wasn't in line to start next year. Like those are kind of the transfers you expect. But every year you lose a couple guys you don't want to lose. And I would say this year, like with that number being 5 right now, that's probably on the higher end of guys they didn't want to lose, but they probably got priced out for. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Like I'm sure Pitt made competitive offers to what they felt those guys deserved or part of the pie that they have to offer. But like at a certain point, we know what Texas Tech can do. We know that they have disposable money, and like Kenny Johnson could be Pitt's 1 or 2, top receiver. And like, he might be like the third best receiver at Texas Tech. Like we know like Francis Brew's like going to visit Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame has like a bunch of defensive tackles just as good as him or just as highly as ranked as him. Like, but they have the luxury of like, well, we might need one more, and they can do that. So like that, it's just, I don't think it's anything new. Nothing about the transfer portal this year is new or shocking. I think that was one of the things you asked this week. Are you surprised by anything?
Yeah.
No, there's no surprises anymore. Like anything and everything's on the table. Like even like stepping outside of the Pitt universe right now, like the thing in Washington right now is very interesting because what are these contracts? Are they binding? Apparently, but like apparently not. Like because whoever really wants the quarterback from Washington, Williams, presumably, Lane Kiffin and LSU, well, they're just going to say, well, let's see if that contract's worth anything, and they're going to fight it. And Washington's going to fight to say it is worth something, and the Big Ten's in their corner. So what happens there is going to be very interesting. But as of right now, like until you see someone say, "Hey, I'm coming back to Pitt," and the portal's closed, like anything's open, and like it's just kind of how it's been for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I wonder the thing with the Washington quarterback, like what's the difference? I mean, like I know there are considerable differences, but what's the difference between what he's doing right now and what like Andy Jean did last year. Enroll in January, transfer in the spring, or Cole Gonzalez did enroll in Oklahoma in January and transfer in the spring. Obviously, it's 4 days. It's 4 days as opposed to 3 months. But nobody stayed long enough for there to even be a game. The contracts, from what I've seen online, don't really they don't and can't specify that it's pay for play. Like there's no performance connection. It's basically the same thing, right? I don't see how Washington, we're going to fight this and all that. Well, I mean, but guys have gotten out of their deals in less than a year and without even making it to the season before. You know what I mean? It's not even, it's new in that it's happening like in the span of 4 days, but the concept of signing with a school and leaving before you even get to a game, it's not the first time that's happened. You know what I mean?
It's not. And I guess because there was so much money behind it, it's not
Right.
it's not an Andy Jean situation where it's I'm sure he got a few bucks to come to Pitt, and well, he probably had to void that contract. No, Washington's gonna give him, I think I saw the number was $4 million. They're committing a lot of money to him. He signed this contract, but what is binding that contract? What is the backbone of that contract? What is keeping him at Washington? Nothing. There is actually nothing that can prevent this from happening. The portal is open. He is able to enter the transfer portal right now. And the same thing goes with the Pitt players that all these locked in graphics. Yeah, that's great, but what's it matter? We've seen that in the past before. Whenever there was 2 portal windows, yeah, I saw Solomon DeShields and Dayon Hayes say they were coming back, and that was great, and we wrote an article about it. But the next time they were able to leave, and it was still before the season started, they left.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing. And I mean, it just starts at the top, and that's what we've all been saying about college football for a while now. It's who's in charge? Who do we bring this grievance to? Who we have this problem. We think we're being wrong, but who are you taking it to? And nobody knows.
That's because there is no one. It's because the only organization that even would have had a chance to be in charge of it just kept kicking the can down the road and pretending like what was inevitably coming wasn't actually going to come. And so, I mean, it's, the NCAA is feckless and useless in all of this. It's got to be the conferences, and I don't really see them acting unless the schools compel them to act. Now, the fact that it's happening in the Big Ten, maybe that compels some kind of action, but I'm not holding my breath on it. Let's see. Super chatter here. Benjamin Glazer says, is there a hope that the legal situation with the Washington quarterback will be the reverse O'Bannon that will put a bow on this? I keep wondering if there's going to be this nuclear moment where something too ridiculous happens that it just, the powers that be eventually throw their hands up and say, this has to change, which is kind of what we were just saying, right? Maybe the fact that this is happening to a Big Ten school will cause the Big Ten to say, all right, that's enough. We've got to change something here. And maybe that affects real change, but I think it's probably going to come from conference leadership, right? I think it probably has to come from some collective of conference leadership agreeing to a collective bargaining agreement with the student athletes and making them about as close to employees as possible. And that, because that's the only realistic way forward. That's the only thing that could actually solve some of these issues, because anything else is going to fall short, and it's going to fall prey to what we're talking about right now, that there are loopholes because you won't just call them employees. You don't actually get to treat them like employees.
Exactly. I mean, this whole thing started as NIL. That was the big thing. Those were the 3 most important letters in, I guess, 2021 when it first got introduced. It's not even that anymore. I mean, it's just they are paying them as employees, but they're not calling them employees. That's exactly where they are right now. These guys, that's probably one of the most highest paid people at the University of Washington is their quarterback, right? Has to be the football coach, then the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
They're devoting that much money to him, so you might as well just call him an employee at that point.
Yep. Let's see. Golden Panther's a super chatter, but I gotta find his comment here. Oh, I thought I had it, and then it faded away. Let's see. Whenever we have the super chatters, Jim, we got to shout them out and give them their proper due. Let me see. I just saw it, but One moment. The screen like refreshed. I think he was. Hold on. Oh, there it is. The gap is widening between Texas Tech and the don't haves. Is anyone going to catch them? Texas Tech is definitely the one that made a splash in the last year, right? Like, I mean, we talk about Indiana, we talk about this or that. Like, Texas Tech is the one who said, screw this. We're paying for everybody, and we're going to make this awesome team with this awesome defensive line, and we're going to go and do it. And they're doing it again. You know, they're doing it again this offseason and, you know, bringing in, Kenny Johnson to be there. Is that where Brendan Sorsby went? No.
Yeah.
Did he go to Texas Tech? Okay. It's funny to see some of these quarterbacks that Pitt played against, you know, in the last couple of years, Fernando Mendoza, Brendan Sorsby, even go back to like Riley Leonard. There was somebody else I thought of that I was like, really? Just thought he was just okay when Pitt played against him. You know, like Sorsby was pretty good when Pitt played out there in 2024. I don't know if he was he the quarterback in 23 as well? Do you remember when Cincinnati played here?
I want to say no. I think it was the past 2 years he was their quarterback because he went to Indiana. Like,
oh really?
I think he started. I think he originated at Indiana.
Oh God,
it all. Yeah, but like you look at some of those quarterbacks and like they didn't like stand out. Like they seemed fine. Like and like maybe if this all started 10 years ago, like there might have been a world where 2019. 2020 Kenny Pickett, like, yeah, looks like a fine quarterback. Most people around the country probably was like, yeah, whatever. Then like he went somewhere in his senior year and blew up. And like that's kind of what we're seeing now. Like Mendoza was just an average Cal quarterback. Like he had some tools, he looked good, but like you put him on this great team and like, wow, those tools look a lot better. And like and like we'll probably see that with Sorsby too, although like he was pretty good at Cincinnati this year. I think he put up numbers, but like we're talking about guys that are like, all right, like they seem pretty good. Like they'll probably get drafted in the 4th round to like all of a sudden, like they're getting like huge deals and it's like they're the biggest movers in the sport. But like, I don't know. I mean, like quarterback evaluation is really hard. So
yeah. I mean, maybe there's a redefining of like what you're looking for, what you need. Just need guys who don't turn the ball over or something like that. But yeah, I mean, dog is trying to ask me for something, but he doesn't know I'm busy. Get out of here. Texas Tech paying all that money. But I mean, I think the investment they made in their defensive line made as much of an impact as anything. You know what I mean? Because that defense was just incredible. And that got them into the playoffs as much.
Got them into the playoffs, not too far.
I would take that. Would you?
Yeah. But now they didn't score points, and now they're just going to like go over the top and spend it all on offense this year to
on
make
Brendan
sure
Sorsby and Kenny Johnson. Right. Exactly. Josh Newark says, I support the idea of players being able to transfer for better playing time, coaches leaving, etc. But this Wild West of current college sports is not sustainable unless Pitt has a Mark Cuban type of donation. The gap between the haves and the have-nots will widen. If Commissioner Peake ruled the world, how would you reign in the wild, Wild West? And is that even realistic? I would do what we just said. Like you've opened this Pandora's box. You can't close it. You're not going to be able to restrict player movement legislatively. You're not going to be able to restrict pair play, legislatively or take it away. You have to have a collective bargaining agreement, and because with a collective bargaining agreement, I think you could get contracts. You could create contracts that would largely keep guys in place. There would be ways to get out of it, but it would cost money. It would cost schools money, transfer fees, and all of that kind of thing, buyouts, effectively. And I don't know if you get into trades or not, but like to me, that's the only way you can stabilize things a little bit is creating an actual salary structure that's collectively bargained, and just you have to just throw the door open and make them employees. I don't see any other way to stabilize it, because if you don't do that, Jim, I think what you're seeing now is just going to keep happening and getting more and more ridiculous.
And like to play devil's advocate, and like something that like national media will say is there's never been more parity in the sport than there is right now. You look at the 4 semifinal games, like when's the last time any of them won a national championship? Most of them never have, and Miami won in 2001, I think. So like in their world, they're saying, well, look, Ole Miss can compete. Anyone can compete. And like, yeah, to a certain point, like, sure, there are some schools that like all of a sudden it's like, hey, like we have all this money. Let's just decide to be good at football. Indiana, Texas Tech. But not everyone can do that. There are still a lot of schools in the Power Four level with name brand recognition that just can't spend aimlessly, like just to solely beat Alabama and Georgia, like the way Indiana and Texas Tech can. So it's not sustainable. Like I get whenever people say, like, yeah, there's more parity now than ever. Like, oh, like yes and no. I mean, like it's still geared towards the two conferences and the top half of those two conferences. And like, it's going to be hard to get those people changed away from that thought process. Like, they're like, well, yeah, at least Texas Tech can compete, but like, can Baylor, can like everyone else? Like, I don't know, probably not. Like, there's still 60 some Power Four teams plus Notre Dame. Like, how many of them are realistically competing in the national title conversation? A third of that 60?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. So like
Maybe.
you still have two-thirds of your biggest brands that can't even compete for a national title.
Yep. Jonathan Liberatore is a super chatter, says what seems to be understated is that the NCAA is the schools. How can the conferences force something to happen that the NCAA can't? Because the conferences have leadership and the conferences have a huge stake because they make buttloads of money off of these TV deals. So I think the conferences potentially have more power or have more authority to actually affect change and create change than the NCAA does. Because the NCAA, I mean, you're right, that's effectively the schools, and the schools would need to sort of endorse what the NCAA does. But I think the conferences is sort of smaller and potentially more powerful entities could create these kind of changes. They would just have to work together. And I think if you have the conference leaderships working together, then that can do it. I don't know. I mean, I think, would you agree, Jim, that that's probably where the leadership has to come from, is the conference leadership?
The four major conferences are going to have to get together and kind of decide a plan going forward, because the NCAA pretty much has no jurisdiction over them anymore. Like, nobody in Indianapolis can tell the Big Ten and the SEC what to do anymore, because they make more money than them and they hold all the power. So it's going to have to come down to those four commissioners sitting down in a room and figuring out the best path forward. And I mean, I think whenever all this craziness has started, we're like, are they going to break away? Is it just going to be like a mini NFL NBA at some point? And like, I don't know, maybe, but like, those are the four conferences. Those are the four commissioners that need to get in a room and figure it out. And I don't know what happens next. I don't think anyone does. And nobody really even knows what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, like, so something crazy could happen. Like one of the playoff quarterbacks could opt out and said, I'm getting a better deal. They want me to sit out and I'm going to play next year. Like, are we that far away from someone's, trying to transfer just for the playoff run? Like, hey, like, my regular season's over, the second semester starts in January. Can I sneak on the field for the championship game? Someone's going to try it eventually. And like, it's going to happen. So like, at some point, those four leaders of those conferences have to tell these schools, no, you can't do this.
Oh man. Could you imagine if like Indiana added Des Reed like before the playoffs?
They're going to try it eventually. One of those schools is going to try it.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it'd be tough to find the positions that you could pull that off, but like a running back / like kick returner, punt returner, like that's exactly the kind of guy you could add. Right. Yeah. Oh man. It'd be kind of exciting actually. But all right. Marlon Barnes Truther says this entire Rasheem Biles situation has become laughable at this point. I hope Pitt is able to bring some Buffalo guys on instead, especially Deion Crawford. So Rasheem Biles was going to visit Ohio State and Miami. That didn't happen. Seems like maybe he overshot his shot on that one. So now he visited Colorado and may or may not visit Florida State. I feel like there's a non-zero chance Rasheem Biles could end up back at Pitt, Jim. My gut still says that won't happen. What do you think happens here?
Yeah, I would guess that probably doesn't happen because it usually just doesn't work out that way. Like, it seems like, who are the two people that did it last year or 2 years ago? I forget.
Brandon George and Nate Temple.
There it is.
But they didn't visit. I don't think they visited anyone.
They didn't visit anyone. I think they physically put their names in the transfer portal for at least a little while. So it does happen, but this is obviously a different situation than those. I don't know. I mean, the way I look at it, and I think you probably view it the same way, is that Pitt said, okay, here's your offer. You can come back at any time. This is what we feel like we can pay you. And, you can leave this great legacy and be one of the best linebackers in Pitt history. But if you feel the need to shop around, go shop around. Obviously, there are 2 schools on the table. They went away. Why did they go away? Probably because there was a number he was asking for that they weren't willing to go for on a linebacker. At a certain, there are certain positions where you can command a lot of money in NIL, quarterbacks, defensive linemen, offensive linemen. Those are your bread and butter positions. I don't know if people are going to spend 7 digits or, figures on a linebacker at this point. Probably not. So, okay. Miami, Ohio State said no. Let's go find schools that are just going to spend money just because they have it and just to see if they can get a little bit better. Colorado, that makes sense. We've seen them do it before. And Florida State, they have a coach fighting for his job, and they just need to get good players to try to be good again. So, they're probably going to overspend too. So we'll see if he actually makes it to Florida State. We know he's at Colorado. He did his photo shoot tonight, or posted it on Instagram. So, in all of his Colorado gear. So,
yes.
I don't know. I mean, the way I look at Rasheem Biles is he's probably a 3rd to 4th round pick no matter what he does next year, or if he left this year. I think he is what he is as a prospect. He's a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
So unless he totally tanks or unless he has 70 sacks next year, I don't think much is going to change about his draft stock. So to me, at that point, it just, okay, he's probably just going to make, a good paycheck before he goes to the NFL. That's the only way I'm seeing his senior year playing out.
Yep. Who did Florida State sign? Which quarterback? Didn't they, or are they trying to get somebody? I forget who, because at first I thought they were going to get the kid from Florida. Lagway, right? And then that didn't happen.
They were involved with Calandria, but I think he ended up at Nebraska.
Yeah, that sounds right. There was somebody. Oh, Ashton Daniels. That's right, from Auburn, who was from Stanford originally. Yeah, Ashton Daniels. That's it. So this
every year, man. They just can't get a good quarterback. You're messing around with I'm a huge Rasheem Biles fan. You're messing around with that. Go get a quarterback. That is the only thing that is really been missing for them for a while now. They have dudes up and down the field. Even when you watch the Pitt Florida State game this year, those dudes are huge. They're all 4 stars. They're big. They're going to play in the NFL, but they just keep picking the wrong quarterback. And it seems like they have the means to not pick the wrong quarterback.
Yes. And it's the transfer portal. There's lots of guys out there. You don't have to do this. You could find, something kept telling me, I was like, they're going to get Eli Holstein. They're going to get Eli Holstein. And wouldn't that, that would fit with what they've done. A guy who has shown some, the possibility of having a pretty high ceiling, but also has, kind of struggled at a lot of points in his college career. And you look at it and say, really, is that the guy you think is going to get you over the top? And again, we've said it a million times, the fact that Miami went and got Cam Ward and Carson Beck, and Florida State was nice, we're going to get DJU and Tommy Castellanos. It's you don't have to look far to see the model of what you should be doing compared to what you actually are doing. It'll never not be funny to me what Florida State has done at quarterback the last couple of years in the transfer portal. Mad Dog says, do you think Pitt will get more than one wide receiver in the portal? Because with Kenny Johnson leaving, he's a great number 2 and okay number 1, but it would be nice to get a good wide receiver 1 in the portal like Bub Means. Interesting direction you went there at the end by mentioning Bub Means. I'm not sure how Pitt fans would react if you brought in someone with Bub Means' resume right now, the resume Bub Means had when he got to Pitt. I'm not sure how Pitt fans would react, but Pitt did get a wide receiver today, Malik Knight from Western Carolina. What do you have? 47 catches for 774 yards or 700. I think it was 774 and 7 touchdowns this season. Incidentally, 1 fewer reception than Kenny Johnson had, more yards and more touchdowns than Kenny Johnson had. Now, playing for Western Carolina at the FCS level, not playing in the ACC, but interesting comparison there on stats. I don't think Malik Knight is the last wide receiver they're going to get, Jim. We've really we found a lot of linebacker targets, found a lot of tight end targets, decent amount of defensive back targets, a whole bunch of like quarterbacks that I think somebody else, Swim Boyd said, I think they need to add a quarterback to the lineup. I think they do too. And I think they'll try to get a veteran to come in and be the backup. Found a bunch of positions, but wide receiver has been a tougher one to track down and find actual targets. Malik Knight's the first one, though. I think they'll get at least one more wide receiver, maybe better and more impressive resume than Malik Knight, maybe not, but I do think they're going to bring a couple guys in. I like Malik Knight, though. Listed at 6'2", seems pretty explosive, you know. And the other thing, too, about him is he played at Western Carolina, and somebody on the message boards pointed this out. It's a good point, setting aside all the jokes about Pitt taking all these Western Carolina guys. Like, Kerwin Bell is still the head coach of Western Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't believe Malik Knight could play the ACC level, he would probably tell his son, like,
you would think,
I think you can do better than this. So if he's signing on, not that Kerwin Bell is the greatest guru in the history of college football, but like, if he's signing off on this, then the kid can probably hack it, you know, because I don't think he would lead his son astray in year 3 of his Power 4 offensive coordinator job. You know what I mean? Like, at an important year for his son, I'm pretty sure he would like not lead him astray, you know?
I agree. And I like, we've just seen from this coaching staff, like, they like to add numbers at receivers. I think like last year they signed 3 and added 3 transfers. This year they signed 4 and already added 1 transfer. Like, they're always going to add playmakers. They're always looking for speed. Like, that's just kind of the name of their game. So like, I'd expect a couple more. And the way, like, this offense is friendly towards having multiple guys catching 40 to 60 passes, 500 to 700 yards, 5 to 7 touchdowns. I think this offense can sustain a couple of those guys doing that. I do think having a clear-cut defined number 1 would, elevate this offense, but I think the offense can operate with a bunch of guys in that number 2 mold. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could have multiple number 2s instead of just one clear-cut number 1. So, I mean, obviously I think they want to add, a big time player to kind of pair with Mason Heinchel and give him a big weapon. But like, I think they're still going to trust that they have some guys that can do that. Like, I think they believe in Blue Higgs. I think they believe in Knight. They just added, I think they expected CJ Lee to have a big year before he got hurt. And they're kind of hoping that happens next year. So like, they're going to get more guys. Like, I don't know if Pitt's going to go out and grab the $300,000 receiver from a Power 4 school that everyone wants. But like, I still think they're going to add some quality guys and guys that can put up numbers in this offense. I think we said that when Kenny Johnson transferred, you might not replace the, talent like eye to eye, but you might be able to replace the production or offset it. And I think that's kind of the approach.
Yep. Brock Madonic says, from the looks of things, Pitt football is in for a long year next year. Can't retain any of your key guys and won't land any difference makers in the portal. So, Brock, I think you're being a bit emotional about this, saying Pitt can't retain any of their key guys. So far, we've already seen Cruz Brookins, Cam Lindsey. Who else announced they're coming back? Keith Gouveia,
Sean
Fitzsimmons, and Sean Lee. Right, those are the 5 I think so far that are locked in. We have every indication that Jakarian Turner is locked in. We expect Mason Heinchel back. I mean, you look along that defensive line. You look at the safeties, Josh Gary. I mean, like, it's not that they didn't retain any of the key guys. They lost a couple that they would like to have back. Francis Brew, Rasheem Biles, certainly at the top of that list. I think Kenny Johnson also on that list. I think Malachi Thomas is probably a guy they would prefer to have kept rather than lost. And obviously Trey Bukowski, the kicker. But you're going to have this every year, and you do have this every year. Last year they lost 2 starters in Sincere Edwards and Rylan Gandy. They've lost guys. They lost the one year they lost Solomon DeShields and Dayon Hayes. Like, every year you're going to have a couple guys who go that you would rather hold on to, no matter what Pat Narduzzi says. Pat Narduzzi is going to come out and say, we kept all the guys we wanted to keep. BS. Like, no, you would rather have Francis Brew on this team. You would rather have Rasheem Biles on this team. You would rather have Trey Bukowski on this team. You would rather have Kenny Johnson and Malachi Thomas on this team. I think they're okay with Lyndon Cooper going. That's just is what it is. And quite honestly, I think it'll be a wash there. I think they'll find a center who can play and it'll be fine. So it's not that they haven't retained any of their key guys. They've lost a few starters, and you're going to have that. And then you throw in the sort of natural attrition of running out of eligibility or guys going to the NFL, and you lose, Desmond Reed, and you lose Kyle Lewis, and it stings a little bit more. You lose your starting corners, you lose a starting safety. That's kind of natural. That's part of the process. It doesn't feel to me all that different from most years. Does it feel all that different to you, Jim?
No, and like I feel like every offseason we kind of go like jump through the same hurdles. Like, okay, a couple guys leave. Like, wow, this I can't believe this. Like, our players are leaving. Then like, okay, we reveal like a couple guys are targeting. What? Like, this guy's a Division II player. He must stink. This is awful. And like by the end of the like portal cycle, like everyone kind of comes to grips with like, oh, this wasn't that bad. Like we lost a couple guys, we added some good guys. We kept a lot of important guys. And we're going to keep the train moving. And like, by the middle of January, like that's going to be the mantra. But like sometimes living through these like couple weeks, like people kind of like just go hysterical because I get it. It's minute to minute, second to second. Like I am refreshing my phone 100 times a day, and it's annoying, and I'm sick of it. But like, what do we got? We still have 9 more days of this. Like, so like it is what it is. Like I just have to like stay by my computer most of the time now. But it is what But I think people always just get like so worked up in these first couple announcements, like, oh, this guy's leaving. Oh, like we're not getting like a 5-star from Alabama to replace him. What the heck? Then like, it settles down. Like it's okay. Like whenever we post an update, that's not the comprehensive update. Like here are a couple guys that are after what? Like there's no like 75 million left tackles on the list.
Right.
Chris, what are you talking about? Like, it comes out in bits and pieces. That is the transfer portal.
Always. That's the way it is. Steel Will says, got to ask, is Pitt really bringing back Jeremy Darveau? Jeremy Darveau is the offensive line coach. From what I found, they were 9th in sacks allowed with 43 in 2024 and 5th in 2025 with 44 sacks allowed. Can't run that back. Look, it seems like the coaching changes that were going to be made have been made. I don't know. Pat Narduzzi plans to make a change at the offensive line. It seems like it's largely been addressed. I'll tell you, Jim, I think Brent Davis, the tight ends coach they hired from Virginia Tech, is a really interesting guy. A lot of experience as an offensive coordinator. I think 17 years as an offensive coordinator at a few different levels. He was at Army a lot, running the triple option there. He's had experience coaching the offensive line. I could see Brent Davis having a positive impact kind of across the board, helping Pitt's run game, assisting with the O-line coaching, in addition to coaching the tight ends. I mean, not like he's going to be bouncing around to practice and doing some O-line work and some tight end work, but I think just his presence and insight can help kind of all of that, can help the run game, can help the offensive line a little bit. I never like to put it all on one position coach. I mean, especially not the offensive line coach, because you have 5 guys and you have a lot of, always have injuries and you're dealing with that. Yeah, Pitt's offensive line was not good this year. They got worse as the season went on. And then they also dealt with injuries as well. I don't put that all on Darveau. Some of it, obviously, he has to wear. But I do think Brent Davis is a good hire who seems like he should be able to help a number of elements of this offense.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is because the previous tight end coach was Jacob Ranowski, and he also wore the hat of special teams coach. So, like, if you ever were to go to a Pitt football practice and you look at how the practice is structured and all the coaches working with their different position groups, Brent Davis is responsible for like 4 people. Like there are like 4 tight ends on the roster. So like he has the ability to spend time elsewhere and help the offensive line, help the play calling, help the whole offensive production. I think there's good value in bringing in an older coach that's been around, that has done things. The guy was up for a Broyles Award. Like Army like led the nation in rushing under his watch. Like Virginia Tech, I think he was the co-offensive line coach 2 years ago. Like they jumped their rushing from like 100 to like 175 yards a game. Like he's going to make an impact that way. So like, yeah, if they were going to get rid of Jeremy Darveau, it probably would have happened by now. Like I can get everyone being upset that he's coming back and that the offensive line didn't look that good. But like, I don't know, like they've already signed 3 transfers and 2 of them are offensive linemen. So I don't think they would have the offensive line coach that's like about to be fired meeting with all these guys. Like he's the one recruiting them. He's the one sitting down, going out to dinner, showing them the plan, showing them everything. So we'll have to see. I mean, I think the whole offense needs to grow. It's not just the offensive line coach. I think the entire coaching staff has room to improve. I think the players, the personnel, they have room to improve. So I think it's a big offseason for them in just terms of kind of figuring out what they want to be and how they want to do it effectively.
Yep. I agree. And it's a good point too about him scouting and recruiting these transfers too. It'd be a little weird to make a move there. Oak Original, interesting basketball question here, Jim. Who are the top 2 players you saw play against Pitt so far in men's basketball this season? For me, it's Cruz Davis from Hofstra and Bruce Thornton from Ohio State. Davis by far. Who you got? Definitely the Hofstra guy, Jim. And then I would say Amari Monroe from Quinnipiac. I had to look it up to remind myself of his name. He was pretty awesome. And then the Miami guy was pretty Renault.
Malik Reneau.
Yeah, he was pretty outstanding too. I don't know if I would put them ahead of Bruce Thornton, but I think Davis is, I don't think there's any debate there. I think Cruz Davis from Hofstra was awesome, but I don't know. I might pick one of those other guys, maybe Monroe or Renew.
Yeah, I like Cruz Davis, like completely like controlled the game and was the best player on the floor between either teams when they played. Yeah, I might have to say Renew just because like, just going back to that game, like he got in foul trouble. Pitt made this big run. He wasn't in foul trouble, and they just dominated Pitt when he was on the floor. So like, he was a total difference maker. They had no answer for him. And what do you have, like 27 points and 8 rebounds? Like it's a pretty good day.
Yeah, Amari Monroe had 25 points, shot 4 of 6 from 3. He was pretty good.
Yeah,
he was the guy who was about to transfer and then didn't. Right, he ended up sticking with Quinnipiac and. Right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. And like,
I forget if he went into the portal and got a bunch of suitors, including Pitt, and then came back out and stuck with Quinnipiac.
Yeah, I think that's how it went down. Like he was like one of the hot names, and like just abruptly he's like, no, I'm just gonna play at Quinnipiac.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Travis Spagnolo says, since the cool thing is to announce that you're coming back, has Mason Heinchel officially said he's returning? I'm not talking about behind the scenes rumors saying it's a done deal. Has he said it? No, he hasn't put up his locked in post yet. So maybe they're just getting around to it, with the graphics, maybe it just takes a little time to work through the alphabet or work through the numbers. I'm not sure. I don't know. At what point, Jim, will you start to get nervous about Mason Heinchel?
I guess if like I hear a bad rumor, but like I have no reason to think that he hasn't agreed. I think that's kind of been like, again, like he hasn't come out and said it, but I think like he's kind of pretty much been locked in to be Pitt's quarterback for next season since like November.
I think so too. Rich Campsey says Francis Brew wants to play for Charlie Partridge. Yeah, great irony there, Jim. Isn't this funny? Charlie Partridge, after the 2023 season, leaves college football. Just can't handle it anymore. Too much dealing with these guys who are always going back and asking for more money. You got to re-recruit these guys, and it's just not the same. Got to leave. Got to go to the NFL. And of course, one of the, I think, key linchpins in that whole thing was Francis Brew as a high school recruit who, right before signing day ended up going back and getting more money out of Pitt to sign with them. Now Charlie Partridge is back in college football and recruiting Francis Brew again. Funny. I don't know. The irony of it is just cracks me up. And I know, and people are like, well, Notre Dame's not in the same position as Pitt. I know, but I thought Charlie Partridge left college football because it wasn't the game that he knew and loved, and he didn't want to have to deal with this anymore. Well, here he is. He's back, and he's recruiting one of the guys who played a part in him leaving in the first place. I don't have anything else to say about that. Do you?
No, I mean, you kind of nailed it. I think Okololo was the one that actually broke him.
Maybe,
but like Brew was up there.
Yeah.
Like the whole situation. But yeah, like I think it was like Okololo, like promising redshirt freshman. Like, oh, okay, like this is the guy who usually can mold into a really good player. Nope, I'm gonna go to Colorado.
And DeAndre Jules left that year too, and I think that was frustrating for him because he he was like, okay, DeAndre finally like broke through after like 4 years. He finally got it and was finally like showing signs of promise. And then he immediately like ups and leaves. And so I think there was a lot of it, but I'm going to say it was Francis Brew. Steel Will says Indiana's rise to the top and Cignetti's excellent coaching was a lot more impressive to me before I realized they're getting huge NIL donations from big donors like Mark Cuban. Money makes it less special. Yes and no. They did this with money, but last year they also did a whole lot of it with, James Madison guys. Like it wasn't entirely the same thing as this year. The other thing too, Pat Forty had an article today, Jim. So I remember when I was watching their playoff game, one of the announcers was like, man, the thing about Indiana's offensive line, they just don't make mistakes. And he was talking about like, execution. They just don't blow assignments. Like, may or may not be the best offensive lineman in the country, but they don't make mistakes. They execute their assignments. And Pat Forty had an article today that was just like, they're the least penalized team in the country. They never fumble. Like they don't make any of these like dumb mistakes. Like they're very good. There's no doubt about it. They have good players. They have great players that they got out of the portal. And, Fernando Mendoza earned the Heisman Trophy and all this stuff. But like, there's something to be said for just not shooting yourself in the foot, not taking a lot of penalties. I think they average like 25 penalty yards per game or something like that. They're like one of the best in the country at penalties. They haven't had a team fumble since like the season opener or something like that. They just don't make mistakes. And there's something to be said for that. And we could probably go down a long path talking about Pitt football over the last 11 years and how they have repeatedly every week, multiple times per game, multiple times per quarter, sometimes multiple times per drive, shot themselves in the foot. I remember back to 2019 when I tracked their like just on offense, procedure penalties, like pre-snap infractions, dropped passes, and fumbles. Even fumbles they recovered, but fumbles. And it was like I forget what I called it, but it was like self-inflicted wounds, like just shooting yourself in the foot, stopping yourself. And they averaged like 9 per game, like 9 times per game that they just did something stupid on their own that hurt them. And like that is a defining characteristic of the last 11 years of Pitt football is like penalties, not great ball security, just general mistakes. This is the team that went out, I believe it was the 2018 Penn State game, won the coin toss, and when given the option to either choose what to do or defer that option, said, we want to kick, which of course is a decision, which means that now you chose to make the decision in the first half, which means Penn State gets to make the decision in the second half. So I believe Pitt kicked off twice in that game. Like just mistakes, like dumb mistakes. And like Indiana doesn't do that. So yeah, they have a great war chest and they got even more money this offseason and they've bought a lot of good players, but they also don't screw up. There's really something to be said for that,
No, and I think part of it goes back to I think like they're one of the oldest, if not the oldest team in college football. I think that plays a role in it. It's like you add transfers that are older and like they're playing with a bunch of like NFL guys like on their rookie contracts. Like that's essentially what Indiana is right now. So but yeah, like I think Cignetti gets credit for a lot of that because like sometimes when the talent's equal or coaching does matter, and like he was coaching circles around Alabama like the other day. Like that's just it is true. And you also look at like they're getting a lot of big transfers, they're spending a lot of money, like but still like they're not getting like the former 5 stars. Like if you were to go up and down their roster, I can't imagine many of them were 5 or 4 stars coming out of high school. They might be 4 or 5 star transfers, but like on paper, like it's still not this crazy team, like the same, pound for pound star level that Alabama had. Like they just beat you up and down because they don't make mistakes. They're coached well and they're old and they're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Cignetti had a funny quote. He was like, oh yeah, well, we at James Madison, like he said, he was talking about the value of having basically the same coaching staff together you know, like all the guys that were with him at JMU came with him. He's like, so when we were there, we made all the mistakes, like as a staff, we screwed everything up. He's like, but nobody really was paying attention to it because it was JMU. So we could learn all the mistakes. And now we're much better now. We're much smarter and we don't screw that up anymore. All right, let's see here. Zachary Henry says, do you view positives from the transfer portal? Yeah, I mean, I think there's still upside to it. I mean, I think like guys who aren't getting a chance to play at their current spot can go find a level that fits them better. And I, you know, that's a good thing. Every week during the season, we do the transfer tracker and look at guys who, you know, transferred out of Pitt and how they're doing at their new school. And there are a lot of guys who transferred to different levels and they're having success. They're getting more opportunities and playing more and doing better than they did when they're at Pitt. You know, Judson Townder a couple of years ago transferred to Akron and was like a starting safety. You know, Stephon Hall transferred to Youngstown State, was a starting safety. Like guys go else. I think that's a good story about the transfer portal. I think if you, you're playing FCS or Group of Five, Jim, and you're excelling, you should get another shot at going to the higher level, at going and playing in a Power 4 school or playing in the ACC or the SEC or the Big Ten or someplace. I think that's good. I mean, like players should have that freedom. I don't think they need to be tied to a school for 4 years without any kind of compensation. Now, if you get into contracts, then that's a different story. But I mean, I think it is still a good thing. And remember, Jim, too, the other thing, and I always say this, ultimately what the transfer portal did is replace the old system. And the old system being that when you wanted to transfer, your school could block who you transferred to. They could decide who they released you to. That's messed up. And so the transfer portal basically just said, here, you can transfer to anywhere. Anybody can contact you, can go anywhere. And I think that's good too. I don't think Pat Narduzzi should get to decide where guys can and cannot transfer if they want to leave Pitt, you know?
Yeah, and I kind of remember back to like the Cam Johnson thing at Pitt, but like he was a grad transfer, but there people were up in arms that like he was gonna go to the same conference. Like that was unheard of back then. Like he was gonna transfer from Pitt to UNC. You're not allowed to transfer in conference, but because he was a grad transfer, and I remember Jay Billis was on his soapbox about everything, and that was a whole story. But like that's how it was 10 years ago. Like it was unheard of. It was like unprecedented that one of Pitt's starters was going to go to North Carolina. And now it's like, that could happen at any time. It could happen tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just, it's so different now.
Yep. Swim Boyd's a super chatter before we get out of here says, does Pitt have a kicker on the team? I don't think so, Jim. With James London, I mean, James London has been on the team since August. Sam Carpenter went in the portal and Trey Bukowski went in the portal. Is there another walk-on we don't know about or I'm not thinking of?
No, I was actually like, I have a little text with some of the other beat writers and we were like, who are the specialists left? And it was Henry Searcy, I think a redshirt freshman long snapper.
Yeah. Henry.
And the punter that I can't say his name from Michigan.
Kimon.
Yeah.
Kieran. I think it's Kimon Tijirna.
Those are the only two specialists that we figured are still on the team.
Well, I put it on the board today. I think they'll get another punter here sometime soon, and I guess we'll see if they can go get a kicker. But all right, let's see. I don't know if there's anything else. There. Adam Vinchik says, looks like a new guy is visiting tomorrow. Post it on the message board. So, Jim, we'll have to call the live stream off. We'll have to wrap this thing up and go to the message boards and get back on the phone, texting and DMing and doing all the things we're doing all day long because this is all we do. All right, Jim, thank you for your time. Thanks everybody for jumping in on the live stream tonight. It's a lot of fun as always. Thanks for the comments and questions, super chatters, and all those things. I don't think we'll have any live streams this weekend or anything like that, but we will have a Morning Pit tomorrow talking about all the latest news from the transfer portal. And then the Morning Pit mailbag on Friday. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure you like this video and subscribe. Have a good rest of your night. And we will catch up with you tomorrow for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.